How's everyone doing? Welcome to another top 10 most expensive Pokemon cards featuring EX Unseen Forces. This was one of the most hottest sets back in the day, and we're going to relive this set and see what its 10 most expensive cards are. If you like this set and this series, please go ahead and make sure you hit that like button along with commenting down below what set you would like to see in next week's top 10 most expensive, whether it be a set of its own or a Pokemon individually. And if you're not yet, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And if you want to check it out, right next to the subscribe button is a button that says join. That is to join and become a member of this channel. Now, clicking that button does not make you pay for anything. It just shows you the different membership options, which give you different chances at winning even more in giveaways with either prizes, more chances, or even more giveaway prizes along with the giveaways that you will already win. So check that out if you want to. Now, let's go ahead and get into today's top 10 most expensive Pokemon cards featuring EX Unseen Forces currently on the 2024 market. With number 10, we have ourselves the Ho-Oh EX going for already an outstanding $69.09 with a PSA 10 of $1,010.67. The PSA 9.5 does drop about $400 almost, where after that the PSA 9 drops another $400. So you lose $400 with every 0.5 less of a grade. This card's most expensive point was back in July of 21 at $92.50, and the cheapest this card was back in January of 23 at $44.49. At number 9, we have ourselves the Lugia Reverse Holo going for $69.73 with a PSA 10 of $468.05. This card drops down to a 9.5 and it drops down about $230. From a 9.5 to a 9, it drops about $110. This card's most expensive point is actually current right now. This card has not gone for this price ever in the past 3 or 4 years. So if you got this card and you're looking to sell it, now's a good time. The cheapest this card was back in January of 24 at $15.64. So in about 6 months, he's skyrocketed about $50. At number 8, we have ourselves the Tyranitar EX going for $100.92 with a PSA 10 of $1,649.99. The PSA 9.5 doesn't drop too much, only about $330, but from a 9.5 to a 9, it drops about $1,000. Ouch. This card's most expensive point was way back when in February of 21 for $139.99, where its cheapest point was back in September of 22 going for $55.63. At number 7, we have ourselves a fan favorite, Umbreon EX, going for $144.01 because that extra penny is always so worth it. PSA 10 is going for a whopping $5,125, and a PSA 9.5 drops about $3,125. PSA 9.5 to a 9, it drops an additional $1,200. This card's most expensive point was pretty recently in April of 24, going for $272.10. Sheesh. If you bought that card at that price, you're crazy. This card's cheapest price was back in December of 22 at $75. Now it's time for number 6. We have ourselves the Celebi EX going for $159.13. where a PSA 10 is going for $7,382.50. PSA 10 to a 9.5 drops about $6,000, and a 9.5 to a 9 drops about $500. This card's most expensive point was in August of 21 at $237.50, with the cheapest price of this card being a little bit further back in February of 21 at $108.91. At number 5, we have ourselves Espeon EX going for $185.25 with a PSA 10 of $2,500, PSA 9.5 drops about $1,400. And a PSA 9.5 to a 9 drops an additional $450. This card's most expensive point was back in August of 22, going for $213.75, where its cheapest point was way back when in February of 21, going for $37.80. At number 4, we have ourselves the NK Gold Star. Yes, there are gold stars in here, and number 4 is a gold star, which you can only imagine how much the top 3 are. Going for $195.25 with a PSA 10 of only, I know it's still a lot, but only $928.51. PSA 9.5 drops about $500, and the 9.5 to a 9 drops only $110, which isn't too bad. This card's most expensive point was way back when in February of 21, going for $250.89, with the cheapest of this card being back in May of 22 for $139.97. Now, before we get into the top 3, we're going to go over the honorable 5 that didn't quite make it into the top 10, but are pretty much borderline right there. Number 5 of the honorable mentions is going to be the Rockets Persian EX, going for $39.89 with a PSA 10 of $902.24. PSA 10 to a 9.5 drops pretty drastically, about $800, and 9.5 to a 9 doesn't drop too much, only $10. But that $800 is going to hurt. This card's most expensive point was back in July of 21, going for $66.13, with the cheapest point of this card being back in September of 23 at $26.68. Number 4 of the honorable mentions goes to Typhlosion Reverse Hollow, going for $42.75, with a PSA 10 of $260.50. A 9.5 drops about $180, and then from a 9.5 to a 9, it only drops about $6, $7, $8. This card's most expensive point is back in March of 23, going for $45, so a little bit more than what it's going for now. And its cheapest price was back in January of 22 for $13.89. Number 3 of the honorable mentions is going to be the Politoed EX, going for $45 with a PSA 10 of $750. PSA 10 to a 9.5 drops about $525, and a 9.5 to a 9 only drops about $21. This card's most expensive point was kind of recently at $75 back in December of 23. This card's cheapest price was in June of 21, going for $38.60. Now it's time for number 2 of the honorable mentions, which goes to Steelix EX. Steelix EX, kind of like saying that. Going for $46.11 with a PSA 10 of $1,534.28. PSA 10 to a 9.5 drops about $1,100, and a 9.5 to a 9 drops about $200. This card's most expensive point was, wow, that is a shoot up there, going for $125.91 back in April of 21. If you bought this card for that price back then, I am so sorry. It will never be worth that again. This card's cheapest price was back in October of 21 for only $20. Now it's time for the number 1 most honorable mention before we get to the top overall 3. And then we're going to tell you how much a booster pack and booster box cost. Top number 1 of the honorable mentions goes to the Scizor EX, going for $57.19, with the PSA 10 going for $810. A PSA 10 to a 9.5 drops about, let's just say $600, $615, and a 9.5 to a 9 drops about $20. This card's most expensive point was back in May of 22 at $84.91, and this card's cheapest point was in December of 22 at $42.17 cents. Now it's time for the top 3 most expensive Pokemon cards from EX Unseen Forces. At number 3, we have ourselves the Lugia EX, beautiful artwork by the way, going for $196.87 with a PSA 10 of $2,959.50. PSA 10 to a 9.5 drops about $2,100 and change. This card's most expensive point was back in May of 21, going for $335.34. And this card's cheapest point is actually a little before that, going in March of 21 for $77.75. Number 2 goes to the Ryuku Gold Star card, going for $200.88 with the PSA 10. Wow, I am shocked this does not have a PSA 10 price of over $1,000. PSA 10 is $999.99 with a 9.5 dropping about $600. 9.5 to a 9 drops about an additional $20. This card's most expensive point was back in February and January of 21 for $399.95. So if you bought this card then and it doesn't get a 9, you devalued the price of this card, which I think is crazy. The cheapest point of this card is actually pretty recently, back in March of 24 for $170.01. Now it's time for the number 1 most expensive EX Unseen Forces. And don't forget, we're going to show you the price of a booster pack and booster box to see if buying these cards individually is worth it or if the booster packs are a little bit cheaper. Number 1 goes to the Suicune Gold Star card, another beautifully made card. This card is going for $225.65 with a PSA 10 of only $1,219.82. I am shocked it is not more than that. PSA 9.5 drops about $600, and a PSA 9.5 to a 9 drops an additional $200. This card's most expensive point was back in June of 23 at $294.71. And the cheapest this card was pretty recently, back in January of 24 for $157.50. Now let's see how much a booster pack of this costs. A booster pack costs $333, with none of them being graded in the PSA market. The most expensive this booster pack was, I believe, is actually current, up to date. The booster packs have never been this expensive, which makes sense. The cheapest this booster pack was back in May of 22, going for $240.35. So if you look at it, even if you pull the most expensive card out of this set, you're not going to get your money's worth. So buying these cards individually is probably better than buying the booster packs individually. So buy the cards individually if you want to master the set, because a booster box, now let me show you if you want to see some real money, $13,000 for a booster box here, and it's been that price ever since December of 2021. So if you want to buy a booster box with only 36 packs in it, total ripoff. Yeah, it's better just to buy these cards individually. Alright everyone, that concludes today's top 10 most expensive Pokemon cards featuring EX Unseen Forces. Don't forget to hit that like button if you haven't yet, and comment down below what set or individual Pokemon you would like to see in next week's series. It might get featured. Don't forget also, if you have not, go ahead and subscribe to this channel. And don't forget to check out the membership options, that join button right next to the subscribe button, for even more bonus giveaway opportunities. Thank you everybody for tuning in. Don't forget to say the saying with me, and if you don't know it, prepare to learn it. Let's make Hollows great again and keep poking on. Until next time, peace out, and we'll see you on the next one. Peace.